And welcome back. Here we are. Another fantastic weekend of college track and field took place, and we're going to talk about it today. There were 30 number one performances. 30. And we are not going to cover all 30. We're going to look at the top seven of both the men and the women because there were several major performances. We have some NCAA records, some almost NCAA records, some number two all times, quite a few of those. So we have a lot to talk about today. We've had a great, very eventful weekend, one of the more exciting weekends in what is normally a long regular season for outdoor track and field on the college level. But we'll get started right away on the women's side, and we'll start from obviously the sprints, we'll go to distance, and then into the field. So on the sprints, right away, we are looking at the Georgia standout, Adaejah Hodge. Adaejah is already mentioned multiple times on this channel, and it seems that we can't go a weekend without talking about her because she seems to always find her way on this list in this podcast because she's always breaking records or near it. In the 100 this weekend at the Tom Jones Memorial against a really good field, she clocked a 10.77 in the 100-meter dash, and that was not when dated, it was when legal. So it is a legal 10.77, not just the fastest time in the NCAA, but the fastest time in the world, and really her announcement to the world. Regardless of how you feel about what took place with her in high school and her coach in high school, here she is now, cleared and eligible to compete, and she's putting up incredible numbers. 10.77 is number two all time in NCAA history, only behind Sha'Carri Richardson of LSU, who ran that incredible race as a freshman, winning the national title, and she could have potentially ran faster, but she celebrated slightly before the finish line. That's how incredible that race was, and I think Adaejah is of similar talent. If you watch that race for about a good 70-75 meters, it looks to be Shanice, who ran 10.80, by the way. One of the fastest times in history, finishing second, running a 10.80. She had a great start. And for, the majority of that race, she was winning. But that last little bit where your strength and all of the technical components of being a great 100-meter sprinter, your strength, your speed, your drive phase, your consistency, your form, she kept it and led 10.77 to Walker's 10.80. Where this leads us with her, we'll see, but that was an incredible time, and we need to give her a lot of credit for uplifting this event. Because going into this year, we were wondering who's going to be the next 100-meter queen if it's not going to be India Mayberry. And it's very clear we thought it was going to be Shanice Walker because of the indoor season, but Adaejah's like, I transition better to outdoors in the 100, and she's proven that. Number two all time already. Moving to the next event, we'll look at a middle distance in 800, Lauren Tolbert of Duke. Lauren has been mentioned a number of times on this channel. Lauren is in a few videos on this channel. I covered the ACC championships for my channel in 2024 here when it was in Atlanta. And you can see Lauren competing in both the 400 and 400 hurdles. I initially thought she was put in the 800 as an event to help strengthen her ability to do the 400 hurdles, and it still may be. But 159.58 is the new NCAA lead. And with this being Duke, and Duke having a really solid history with their distance runners, especially as of late, it wouldn't shock me if she moved more towards that. I mean, it's still up for debate. It's still her and her coach's decision. But I put her here as one of the more noticeable marks. And there were others that we could have mentioned, but I put her here because she has low 51 speed. She can run a 50 point if pushed, I do believe, which makes this all the more interesting. I really believe she probably could run 158, 157. And I think she probably needs to consider this event a little more than perhaps she has ever, because that just was an impressive time against a pretty strong field. So more to come from Lauren Tolbert. I don't think this will be the last time she's mentioned. And moving up to the 1500, we're going to look at Rosemary Longisa of Washington State. We know about Washington State's major changes to their program, letting go all of their athletes outside of their distance runners This is one of the athletes that obviously got to stay because she is a distance runner and it's kind of benefited her. Rosemary clocking a time of 4:02:55. That was an impressive 1500 time. And in an event that I'm not saying it's wide open because it's not, but this is an event where it is extremely competitive. There are a few events on the women's side where the depth and the quality of the depth is just insane. The 800 is one event, the 400 is another event, and I also think the 1500, because it was that way in the mile indoors. There's so many talented 1500 to mile runners on the women's side. This event is so competitive. So anytime an athlete, I think, gets that number one ranking, we got to, make sure we make a note of that because this is a name that we're probably going to be mentioning when we're doing our previews, or even a name we're going to be mentioning when it's time to crown the champion. I'm not going to go that far with Rosemary, even though I'm aware the time 4:02:55 is no slouch time. And moving up even further, and we can't talk about Adaejah and not talk about the same youngster who keeps popping up on this channel, and that's Jane Hedengren of BYU. She always finds a way to be mentioned because she's always breaking records or joining all-time lists. And Jane had quite the weekend in the 5K, 14:50:50 NCAA record in the 5K. I don't think any time is going to be safe by the end of this year. Jane was, an incredible talent coming out of high school. Going to BYU was such a smart decision on her behalf because they've had such an incredible move upwards in the distance world. We just watched them build for like the past 15 years into just an absolute juggernaut in this arena. They're just so good with developing their distance runners. I'm pretty sure some of that is, the the air that they breathe, being in altitude, all the mountains, all of that. That's just the benefit of being sort of a Utah uh, school. But we also have to give their coaching staff credit. They just seems to develop and turn out great distance runners, and she's the next big star. I mean, 14:50:50 in the 5K. Come on, Jane is just on a tear. She's having such an incredible season, and we're going to get more out of it. I'm curious to see what she does as her postseason. If she's going to do what she did indoor, which is double, I think she should. Um, but I think it's clear to me that I think perhaps her best event it may be the 5K. We'll see. Now back to the sprinting, we're going to talk about the 4x1, and we're going to of course talk about USC in that incredible quartet that clocked a 42:12. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and on Instagram, it's TrackNerd06. That is my Instagram handle. If you're following me there, you will see that I posted the race because I was blown away. Because this go around, they began the relay with Brianna Selby. They handed it off to Mia Peterson, who gives it to Madison White on the third leg, who had an insane weekend herself and anchored by Deja DeFran. That quartet, and here's the thing: the handoffs were really good, but they weren't solidly perfect. And there was some comfort on the curb with Madison White. I'm like, she could run faster. And Deja definitely could have ran faster. I'm like, they're running a 42:12, blowing these people away. And they haven't even been pushing it for real. I said when they first became the number one ranked team in this event early in the season, I said this group can run 41. I'm not even almost, I am convinced they're going to run a 41. I think they're going to challenge Texas's NCAA record. They're going to join Texas as the other school under 42 seconds. And I don't think, even in a really competitive year that we're seeing in sprinting, I don't think there's a school that has that top end level that they have. I mean, LSU, if they can get those baton exchanges around, because that's been LSU's Achilles heel, they're struggling with getting the baton around. USC, not at all. no problem getting that baton around. It's so easy. And you got Madison White on that third leg who ran that 49.64. This podcast, when we do the weekend recap, we're normally highlighting the number one mark, so we couldn't really highlight that, but that's number two. We got a very competitive 400 meters shaping up here. And she's running the third leg. This is an insanely high level quartet. Heads off to the coaching staff there at USC. You guys are rocking it 42-12 in April. I think I'm going to predict they go under 41-7. I'm going to say 41-5. That's going to be my number. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I want it recorded here that I said 41-5 for USC. Next event we're going to look at is the throws, and that's Anthonett Nabwe, and I'm happy to talk about her here because she rebounded after what I thought was a disappointing Big Ten indoor championships, and she's just been on a tear. Her throw in the hammer throw of 248 feet 5 inches or 75.72 meters is number two all time in NCAA history, and I did not stutter. Number two all time in April. And with the Big Ten being such a competitive conference and her having learned from having a silver at the Big Ten championships, knowing that I have got to make sure that I am on my A game at these conference championships, I think Anthony is going to break the NCAA record at some point this year. And that is insane to think because the hammer throw was one of the best NCAA records there are, and for her to break that, this is someone that's already proven to us she's seriously talented, but I think she enters into a new level with that. She's having quite the season. I mean, from December to now, she's just been hitting mark after mark, chasing those number one rankings. She's got a national title in her trophy case, and I assure you she wants more. Next event, and the last event we're going to talk about on the women's side is the pole vault, and that's for Hana. Of course, it would not be a proper podcast if we're talking about the women's pole vault and we don't mention one of the Mall sisters. And this time it's Hana who breaks the NCAA outdoor record in the pole vault. Yep, we have another NCAA record. It's been an insane season. 15 feet 9 inches or 4.80 meters. Yeah. And here's the thing, her sister Amanda jumped 16 feet indoors last year, and we're still waiting for that 16-foot outdoors. And it may happen, but it doesn't matter. They're both just credible pole vaulters. And I don't even want us to get comfortable with this mark because it could get broken next week. It can get broken in a couple weeks. It doesn't matter. That mark is not going to sit there, I think, for this season. I think at some point within the next month, it's probably going to get broken. Because this was her debut of the outdoor season. Welcome to Outdoors, Hana. NCAA record. Just that quick. It amazes me the heights that this event has gone. It's just consistently getting better and better. But every so often, you have athletes who sort of solidify an event so solidly that they don't really leave room for anyone else to compete with them. And then the pole vault, that's the Mall sisters. Now, moving to the men's side, we're going to look at the 100, and it's Jelani Watkins, of course, the football star, Mr. Everything for Arkansas. When I just say, just to me, one of the best technical sprinters, just a joy. He just has such a very calming energy. He noticeably seems very race smart. At the Mount Sac relays, he runs a 9.82 uh, 100-meter dash. We know that would have normally been an NCAA record, but it was wind aided 2.8. So 0.08 over the allowable. Um, I believe converted, it's more like a 987, 988. We'll see. That's, the conversions aren't the real thing, but I think it's pretty clear he does have 9.8 speed. We saw that indoors. He is fast. And this event, I'm really excited to see it because I am really curious to see what he looks like come June. Um, Hats off to him making the transition from LSU to Arkansas, and I feel for LSU because if he was there, as great as they're running now, ooh my goodness, it would be a whole different level. I think Jelani is very clearly very coachable and very focused. He also did an excellent job of anchoring their 4x1. Their 4x1 now has the NCAA lead. Just outstanding weekend for him and for Arkansas all around. They kind of lit up the Mount Sac relays, gave it its energy. Now, staying at the Mount Sac relays, there was another great performance, another number one by Jayden Davis of Arizona State. And I'm looking forward to seeing him this coming week because Arizona State will be at the Penn Relays. Even though I'm looking at the weather for Saturday, it's like Thursday and Friday's weather is going to be good, but Saturday's is like, can we just get 3 great days of good weather for the Penn Relays? Come on, track gods. But Jayden Davis really laid it out there 44-29. He hasn't been a name that we've mentioned on this podcast since last year. Um, and that's for reasons. He hasn't been a major threat for a while. And running that 44-29, he set a school record. And this is a school that has produced athletes like Justin Robinson or Seth Amu or Marcus Brunson, even though he was primarily a 100, 200 guy. Arizona State is clearly no slouch school, so for him to set the school record 44-9 and to take the NCAA lead with a time like that at this point in the season, we've all of a sudden got an even more competitive 400 meters. Um, 44-9 is no slouch time and lets us know that even going into the postseason next month, he is going to be a name that we mention probably repeatedly because that the beautiful thing about the 400 outdoors is that you can't hide and run to the break. You know, that's what makes the indoors 400 so funny is that they have to cut in and fight to cut in when outdoors you're just running one solid lap and you're in your lane the whole way. And when you're someone like Jayden or an athlete who runs better outdoors, who do, you know the people that are that have beaten you before can't use that break to hide. They have to stay in their lane and run their race. And you either have it or you don't. And Jayden Davis is proving that he does have it. Now, another NCAA record. Yep, here's another one in the men's 1500, and it would be an Oregon guy. Simeon Birnbaum. I mean, 331.69 in the 1500, a new NCAA record. Dang, 331. And I thought my guy Trent McFarland was doing good. You know, he broke Coach Kevin Sullivan's record at Michigan. Simeon said, I don't care about that. 331. And if you saw the race online or you're seeing it on social media, that last, ooh, because he was really burning it up before the last lap. I'll say the 150 meters before the last lap to the last lap, he just went on a tear. It's like he clearly made a decision. This is my race, and he just really outdueled, I think, the entire field, and seemed to not really care about anything around him. You know, whether in decent condition. I'm feeling great. I'm running very tactically well. Let me go for it. And he went for it and gave us the NCAA record 331.69. That is blazing fast. And Oregon continues to produce great distance runners. It is Oregon. And I know that we give a lot to schools like a Washington, Arkansas, Northern Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma State, those programs, and North Carolina and Duke, as well as Michigan. But we can't ignore Oregon as really still sort of, I guess, the upper echelon and notoriety of distance running because of their school's history. Hats off to him. I'm looking forward to seeing what else he does because this is the first time I've mentioned him on my channel. But when you break the NCAA record, you immediately become the favorite, regardless of whoever else we thought. Mm-mm. And a time like that, 3:31.6? Get out of here. He is the obvious favorite. Now, moving up in distance event, we'll look at one of my favorite guys, Habton Samuel of New Mexico. Habton is just having an incredible year again. Number two all time, I believe, in the 5K, 13:03.47. That is no slouch time. And we already, expect for Hampton to probably break an NCAA record or win the NCAA title in one of the events that he competes in. And I don't mean to say it like that, like, oh, well, he'll figure it out, but he really will. Hampton seems to always find a way to be near the top in pretty much every single race. And you know what? I have to correct myself. That is another NCAA record. 13:03.47 is the NCAA record for the 5,000. So if you're keeping score, I believe that is one, two, three NCAA records. Just wow. And several others in danger. But Hampton, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do in the postseason. That's what interests me about Hampton. Yes, he's going to break NCAA records, but I want to see him win championship races again. I think he can redeem himself from the indoors because technically, to me, he swept and he unfortunately got disqualified. I think he's going to take that as a learning lesson and know that eyes are going to be on him when he does compete at a championship meet because you have been disqualified already. Moving back to the sprints, we'll look at the 400 hurdles, one of the more grueling races in track and field, and we'll talk about Jaqueline Scott of Texas A&M, and I'm looking forward to seeing him this week too. Jaqueline, I think, solidified himself because this is in the event of the 400 hurdles. We don't really have, at least in my opinion, an obvious favorite. We're still waiting on some of the youngsters that came out of high school a couple years ago to really step into their own. Vance Nielsen at the University of Florida dealt with injuries, and you know, Florida's had a great history with 400 hurdlers. It's just been a while, and can he be the guy? So we're looking forward to seeing what he does. But Jaqueline says, I'm the guy right now. He ran a 48:22. He has almost a full second lead on the rest of the entire field nationally. We talked about Muhammad last week of the University of Georgia running a 49:16, and he ran a brilliant race. Jalen almost has a full second better than that at 48:22. He ran that at the Tom Jones Memorial. He is, I think, the best dual hurdler we have in NCAA. And he might be the best dual hurdler ever in history. He's, I think, given every athlete a run for their money with his level of consistency in both the high hurdles and the low hurdles, and his technique is solid. And that's a hats off to the coaching that's happening at Texas A&M. No surprise, his primary head coach is Pat Henry, but we know that he's being coached by the hurdles coach there at Texas A&M. And they've had a great history of 400 hurdlers as of recent, specifically under Pat Henry. But prior to his arrival, they had great hurdlers. They were known as the hurdle school in the state of Texas when it was the old Southwest Conference in the early days of the Big Eight before it became the Big 12. You had Texas A&M, you had Texas, um, TCU, not necessarily great hurdlers on the men's side, but the primary hurdlers went to Texas A&M. I'll give you a name that you may remember, Larry Wade. So to see him break an NCAA record in the 400 hurdles, man, 48:22 to break the school record. Can he get under 48? We'll see. Now, moving up to another event with barriers, we'll talk about the 3,000-meter steeplechase, and of course, we're going to talk about the defending champion, Geoffrey of Louisville. This is good to finally mention him here. He ran the NCAA number two all-time mark, 8 minutes, excuse me, yes, 8 minutes, 8.10 seconds. So 808.10. Wow. A couple years ago, this event we were just trying to find the next star, and then he won last year. We've been kind of waiting to see, is he the next star? And I believe Jeffrey Kerwa is. And hats off to Louisville because they have two number ones in the distance, not only in the 3,000, but also in the the 10,000. So I think we have a burgeoning distance power that's growing there at Louisville. Um, I really am curious to see what this means for Geoffrey. He is a young athlete. He is only a sophomore. He is great at a number of events for Louisville. He can run pretty solidly in the 5K. He did okay indoors, but it just seems like outdoors is where his bread is buttered. And excuse me, he's not a defending champion. He's an All American. Forgive me, he finished second last year. He ran 8:17:12, so he's already dramatically improved his steeplechase performance from last year. So where we're going with this guy, we don't even know because he's still learning competing at this high level, competing for the University of Louisville, running an 8:08, number two all time. I don't know, man. This guy just seems to be ready for the stardom. So we'll see what becomes of him later on this season. But hats off to him for setting the number two all time mark in April. And the last individual athlete we're talking about probably had the best weekend of them all. And that is Texas Tanner of Air Force. Yes, the Air Force. And we don't know if we're going to get to see him post this year because of what's currently going on in the world with the United States military, because he may get called into action. So you never know. But Texas Tanner leads the nation now in the discus and the hammer throw. It's rare that we have an athlete that gets the NCAA leading mark in two events in the same weekend, most notably in the field events. It has happened, obviously, in the sprints with the 100 and 200-meter runner, extreme rare occasion of 400, 200 runner. Distance, maybe. But in the throws, oof, I don't think I've ever had that on this channel. And Texas Tanner is the first guy, 217 feet 6 inches, or 66.30 meters for the discus throw. And then for the hammer throw, 258 feet 9 inches, 78.87 meters. So just a rocket of an arm. He has been mentioned here on this channel before. He was one of my dark horses to win the weight throw indoors. Wasn't able to do it, and actually didn't necessarily have the best NCAA indoor championship. So he is seemingly putting that past him and focusing on trying to do better this season. But leading the nation in two events at one time in one weekend, yeah, you that guy, Texas Tanner. Hats off to him. And that should conclude our video for the week. We had an insane amount. I want to mention the other number one performances at least because they deserve that. So pulling out my notepad, just going to run through. There's Sophie Novak of Notre Dame, number one now in the NCAA in the steeplechase, 9:24.95. In the high jump, you have Timmy Adaejah of Texas Tech, 6 feet 4, 3 1/4 inches, or 1.95 meters. In the triple jump, Shantae Foreman of Clemson, 45 feet, 3 1/2 inches, or 13.80 meters. In the shot put, you got to have an Ole Miss thrower. Akaoma Odeluga of Ole Miss, 63 feet, 1 1/4 inches, or 19.23 meters. In the heptathlon, Sophia Casquela of Washington, 6,093 points. And on the men's side, you have Garrett Kalund of USC in the 200, 20.10. In the 800, our superstar Colin Solomon of Northern Arizona, 144.42 in the 800. In the 10,000, you have Geoffrey Curtis team weight, El Singing Kipritu of Louisville, 27 minutes, 29.83 seconds in the 10K. Bradley Franklin of Sanford, 13.07 in the 110 hurdles. It was wind aided. Also, keep in mind, Jacoby Tharp ran 13:09 when legal. So, it's going to be a battle between Franklin and Tharp again. And then moving to the field on the men's side, outside of Texas Tanner, you had Scotty Vines of Arkansas, 7 feet 5 inches, 2.26 meters. In long jump, Tefadzwa Chikomba of Kansas State, 27 feet 1 inch. Yep, we got a 27 guy 8.25 meters. I wrestled with adding him on there because that is a pretty impressive jump. In the triple jump, you have Theo Mutsugineri of Kentucky. I apologize. I know I mispronounced your last name. 55 feet 2 and 3 1/4 inches, 16.83 meters. In the shot put, Tariq Robinson of O'Hagan of Ole Miss. Of course, he's going to be mentioned here. He always seems to find a way on this list. 68 feet 1 5 and 1 1/4 inches, 20.86 meters. And in the javelin, Chinchiram Prosper Namdi of Texas A&M, 277 feet 10 inches, 84.68 meters. And an event that I did mention amongst the sprints when talking about Jelani, again, Arkansas, the new official number one in the 4x1, 38.62. And so that is our weekend. What an incredible weekend we had. I didn't even think we were going to have this many number ones in any of the weekends. 30? And it's April. We have the pin relays coming. I will of course have pictures and do a video afterwards. Looking forward to it. I love the pin relays and I'm so excited. And this is the last sort of weekend of April, and next week we will be in May, and we will be gearing up towards the conference championships, which we know will be the second or third weekend of May. So get ready. We have a lot of big time competition coming. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much for supporting me. Look forward to speaking with you guys again soon.